A game where you shoot penguins out of rocket launchers, and another where you go through portals to different realms. I'm Game Advisor, and welcome to the top 7 survival games coming this year. Number 7 is Palworld, which will be coming out in 2022. Palworld is a multiplayer PvE open world survival crafting and of course breeding game, which is set in a world with mysterious creatures called pals. If you have ever played games like Pokemon and had to ask yourself, why don't you just shoot the bad guys instead of actually battling them in these long drawn out fights? Well, Palworld is going to let you do that. Maybe you've asked yourself, what do people actually eat in a world with nothing but pet-like animals? Well, pals of course. To quote Palworld, you will be able to meet, catch, breed, work with, sell, dismantle, and that's right, even eat your pals. To get these pals though, it looks like you will have to engage in combat with them using things like rocket launchers that will shoot your pals, Gatling guns, and of course the pals that you've chosen are worthy enough to not be eaten, as you will have to weaken them down to the point at which they are low enough so that you can catch them with a ball-like object. Some of the pals you get will be able to be fused in order to create better versions of those pals, as well as be mountable or even used like true meat shields in combat. If you're wondering why this game sounds so much like Pokemon or other similar games, that's because it's clearly inspired by them. But what it has done is taken all the why don't we just do this thoughts that players tend to have in these games and made it so that you can actually see what would happen. Number 6 is Wild West Dynasty, which at the time of recording this video is planned to come out in 2022. Wild West Dynasty is a single-player game where you will have to survive in the Wild West wilderness sometime in the 1800s. Your goal will be to eventually build up a town where you will be able to not just raise your own family, but also attract other settlers to the area in order to create a thriving settlement. This will require you to do all sorts of things like building a blacksmith or maybe even building a pub or a bar so that everybody can enjoy their time. Now the game is trying to have a unique mix of RPG, survival, life sim, resource management, and city builder elements all rolled into it. It's a little unclear as to exactly how all of these elements are going to work at this point in time, but we do know that you will have things like a skill tree that you can talent into and the ability to organize your workers in order to ask them to do specific tasks such as maybe mining iron or doing some other task around the town. At the end of the day though, information on this game is still fairly sparse and hard to come by, but I definitely think it is one that you should keep your eye on. Number 5 is Retreat to Enen. Retreat to Enen will be coming out August 5th of 2022. This is going to be the most recent release coming out, so if you're watching this video a month or two down the road after release, then there's a good chance it's already out and playable. Retreat to Enen is a unique survival exploration experience that is supposed to be relaxing and filled with mystery. The plot is based on the idea that the world nearly faced extinction and you are now going to be one with nature as you rebuild and engage with the world. Supposedly, the game is supposed to be a very zen-like experience, which is going to be related to its meditation system, which I'll talk about in just a second. Your abilities in the game are directly related to your spirit level. If it drops too low, then you won't be able to do things like crafting, building, or even something as simple as just lighting a fire. To get that spirit level back up though, you will have to meditate within the game. The meditation within the game though seems to try to encourage you as the player to actually meditate along with it. It might ask you to breathe in slowly and then breathe out quickly or whatever else meditation might be. The devs say they've put a lot of thought into the world since nothing is procedurally generated and they want each and every environment you encounter to help pull you into the immersion the world has to offer. Therefore, they've made the controversial decision to have no map or compass within the game whatsoever. The only thing you will get is an icon that will show you where your home is in the last place that you slept. With this game being so zen and environmentally friendly, they've decided to also make there be no wood cutting within the game, but rather allow you to gather the little branches and different things you'll find along the way. This means the game has a large focus on the environment and you being conscious about what you're doing to it. You're not going to be a force moving through it and destroying everything you see like in many other survival games where you cause whole deforestation, but instead you'll be one with nature.
Gently close your eyes and take in a nice, deep
Number 4 is Frozen Flame. Frozen Flame is currently scheduled to come out sometime in fall of 2022. It is a single-player co-op or PvP survival game based in a world that was once governed by dragons. It seems like it's going for some kind of a mix of V-Rising / Ark style of gameplay, where you'll have to fight things like bosses and have plenty of PvE content that will challenge you, unlike something such as Rust, which is hyper-focused on the PvP. You will still be able to engage in PvP though, much like Ark and V-Rising has as well, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be absolutely necessary for you to enjoy the game. Within Frozen Flame, you'll also be able to choose which class tree you want to go down. These trees currently include melee, ranged, and magic types of combat. In order to get those skills though, you're going to need to travel around the map and complete quests in order to unlock new abilities and powers as you explore throughout the world. Combat in this game seems to be fairly diverse, which is something I'm pretty darn excited for. You'll also have the ability to host servers with custom rules where you can change how the game works in, as the devs say, every way possible. I don't know if that means it's just going to be some settings or if you have a full world builder available to you, but that's just what the devs have stated. If you want to get a hands-on experience with Frozen Flame, then consider going to the Steam page and downloading the demo, which is currently available. This probably won't be available for forever, so make sure that you go and get your hands on it now while you still can. Number 3 is Sons of the Forest. This game will be coming out in October of 2022, which does fit the theme of the game since it is a PvE survival horror game and is of course the sequel to the infamous survival game known as The Forest. If you haven't played The Forest, then I will just say this is definitely a game you're probably going to want to check out. Sons of the Forest will have tons of new mutant creatures for you to fight, along with new weapons for you to play with. It also seems like they've increased the AI of the cannibals and mutants themselves, so they're a little bit smarter and they actually don't just bug out all the time. I'm really excited to see how they're going to play with the combat, as we even get to see one scene where a little butterfly floats down onto your shotgun in order to interact with you. Speaking of which, I'm also excited for the fact that there's going to be more interactive crafting systems and ways for you to engage with the world, with things like digging even seeming like they're incredibly awesome to do. I personally have never seen a game that has crafting within the world itself in the way that Sons of the Forest does. To give you an example here, there's one scene where when you use a hatchet, you have to smack the top of your wall in order to make it a spiked wall. It may seem like something very small, but it's definitely going to help with the immersion. And that's not even to mention the fact that you get to fight next to a very attractive woman with either 4 arms or 4 legs. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but either way, it looks super awesome and super fun to engage with. I love the idea that we get to have a mutant form of companion with us that will actually help support us throughout the game. And let's just say I'm not disappreciating that waterfall scene. Number 2 is Nightingale, which will be coming out sometime in Q4 of 2022. Nightingale is a co-op survival game with portals that will allow you to travel between worlds, or rather realms I should say. It has some absolutely amazing looking artwork to it already, and it also has these almost Cthulhu-like inspired creatures that just look absolutely horrific but extremely fun to fight. Now, the premise of the game is that there is these portals that will allow you to travel between worlds, and those worlds appear to be decided based upon the realm cards that you insert into a special machine that allows you to spawn different variations of worlds, or again, you could use the term realms here. There's things like the desert card, which we get to see in the trailer, which will probably spawn some kind of a desert world, but it also appears that there's other cards that manipulate the different types of creatures you might find there, or different types of resources. Either way, it's a system I'm very excited to engage with. It also seems like there will be tons of choices for how you engage in combat. There are things like axes, picks, guns, and even some sort of a magic system that seem to be in play. Like I said, any way you look at it, Nightingale looks like it's going to be a very good game. It is a game I am personally very excited to play. Now, before I move into my number 1 game, I have some honorable mentions for games that were either scheduled to come out in 2022 and then got pushed back, or just haven't been given a firm release date yet. The first one is Ark II. Ark II is just the sequel to Ark 1 and is going to add a kind of reset to the game from what I'm understanding, but either way, it's a game that we're definitely going to be looking forward to. Next is Frostpunk 2. Frostpunk 2 is again another sequel to a game called Frostpunk. It's kind of a survival RTS in the middle of a winter where you have to stay warm. It looks super exciting and like it's going to add a ton of mechanics based off of the original game. Following that is Smalland. Smalland is basically the same thing as a game called Grounded, except it's got way more MMO and RPG elements. There's also gliders and about a million other things in it that look super exciting to play. And lastly for our honorable mentions is The Day Before. We couldn't not put this game in the list of honorable mentions simply because The Day Before just looks absolutely amazing. We still don't have all the information we need on it, but what I can say is that it is a PvP survival focused zombie game with some intense PvP moments and some great graphics. Now our number one game is going to be Renown, which is scheduled to come out either in 2022 or 2023. If you don't know, Renown is a medieval combat survival game which is inspired by the game Rust. The devs have straight out come and said that this game is inspired by that and they wanted to make a medieval version of it that players could enjoy. There's going to be a very high focus on PvP and a skill-based combat system. If you've ever played a medieval combat game before, then you will probably have a good idea as to what I'm talking about here, but it again is going to be very skill-based, so if you are good enough, you could beat a player in the best gear imaginable. There will also be plenty of things like crafting, base building, workbenches, and all sorts of other things within the game. But one of the things I'm most excited for are going to be the siege weapons. We're going to have things like rams, siege towers, catapults, and trebuchets all at our disposal to attack our enemy bases. If you just take the time to watch some of the trailer footage for it, you can see how epic this looks like it could be. Again, this game is a heavily PvP focused game set in a medieval style of world with the same core elements of something like Rust, where you're going to have to go out and gather and I'm assuming do some kind of research. At the end of the day, I'm very, very excited for Renown and I cannot wait for it to come out. It looks like it's going to be possibly one of the next big survival games, and it will most likely stick around for a long time if it's executed properly. And for those reasons, that is why Renown is my most looked forward to game of 2022. Now, before you guys head out, I want to mention that we will be reviewing each and every one of the games featured in this video upon release. If you would like to see those reviews, then make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified as soon as that video is released. Otherwise, I just want to thank Jim Phillips and Jonathan S. for being Platinum and above members, and if you too want to support the channel, you can do so by hitting the join button down below. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.